Welcome to this course where we're going to be talking about supporting student self-confidence and motivation. In this course, we're really going to be taking a look at defining these words, thinking about what it looks like in your classroom, and then thinking about strategies that we can do to make sure our students feel safe, they feel like they belong, and they are motivated to be successful. So first, I wanted to ask you how you're feeling today. Let's start by taking a deep breath in, hold that breath, and then letting it out. Now, this is a simple question that you can ask your students every day. It can be done with an entrance ticket, it can be done on technology. You could simply ask them. It's just a way to do a quick check in to show students that you're thinking about them and that you care about them. If you see a student that is off or acting a little different, make sure that you take the time to listen and make sure that they're getting the supports that they need. So first, let's define self-confidence. Self-confident really comes down to the 5 items that you see on your screen. They need to trust themselves and they need to trust who they are. They need to trust in their own abilities. They need to make sure that their judgments make sense and that they're positive. They have to really acknowledge their qualities, the things they're good at, and they really have to think with positivity. This could be done very simply within the classroom every day with some self affirmations or a quick check in on the things that happen that were good every day. It's focusing our attention on the positive things about ourselves and trying to kind of, not hide, but support ourselves in the things that maybe we struggle with. Self-confidence can have 3 different levels. You could be low in your self-confidence where you really, question and doubt and don't trust your judgments. You could have a healthy amount of self-confidence where you realize that you can do certain things and you're ready to tackle the day. And you could have excessive self-confidence where you just have too much, which can hinder your learning as well. Now let's define self-esteem. With self-esteem, we're really thinking about these 6 items: acceptance of ourselves, compassion about ourselves, our self-respect, our self-worth, our self-image, and our self-confidence. So these are really big ones that we need to really think about how we're going to help our students and support our students to feel these things about themselves. And this could be, again, quick little activities. It could just be daily check-ins. It could be something or anything that you're addressing our students' self-esteem to be able to think about how we can increase it and feel more confident in our abilities. Next, let's talk about motivation. Motivation comes from these 4 areas: our needs, which would be shelter, food, clothing, our medications. And then we have our desires. Those are the things that we wish we had more of and things that we're hoping to gain. And then we have wants. Maybe we want to play a video game instead of paying attention in class. And then it's how do we deal with our urges to make sure that we're keeping focused and we're focusing on what needs to be done in order to accomplish the daily tasks in our classrooms. Motivation can really be broken down into 3 areas: our needs, our values, and our goals. So, a lot of times we want to make sure that our needs are being met. We have to think about what we value. Do we value an education? Do we value learning math skills or ELA skills? And what are our goals? And are our goals smart goals that they can be achievable? And we're measuring them and checking in on them on a pretty regular basis. It really comes down to what you probably studied when you were in college to be a teacher. We're talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have our physiological needs at the bottom, we have our safety, and then in the center, we have our love and belonging. Belonging really is an important part of our growth and a very important part of our motivation and self esteem. If we don't feel like we belong in a classroom, we're not going to feel the need or the motivation to be successful. So if you find that you have students that are lacking motivation, take a step back and think, do they feel safe here? Are their needs being met? Do they feel like they belong? And if you answer no to any of those, you really have to think about ways that you're going to help support that student so that they can feel they belong. Once they do, they can get to that higher order of self-esteem and self-actualization. So let's break down motivation. We are going to take a look at the 6 areas of motivation to really take a look at what they could look like in action. And then in the next videos, we'll start to break these down even more on how we can make them happen within our classroom. We have for motivation praise, acknowledgement, realistic expectations, a growth mindset, ownership, and we don't compare our students to other students. This is how we're going to increase motivation if we hit these 6 areas. So let's take a look at them. When we're giving praise, we want to make sure that our praise is specific. So we're not just saying great job. We're saying really great job on completing that sentence or remembering your capitals or answering that math problem. I see what you did there. Be very specific and be clear in your praise. I really like how you're working well in this group. And then also be sincere. We want to make sure that when you're saying it, you really mean it. Students can very easily pick up if you're just kind of going through the motions. When we're acknowledging students, there are 3 big things that we want to think about. The first is that we want to greet our students every day at the door. We want to acknowledge their presence, say we're glad they're here, and kind of get them set for the day as we go through. We also want to be present in the hallways. It's a chance to have a little conversation with your students and talk to them about something. And then we also want to be circulating the room to make sure that our students are getting the support that we need. I know when I was in the classroom, sometimes it was very motivating to sit at my desk and get work done if the students were doing group work, but you're going to help with their motivation if you're walking around and you're acknowledging the work that they're doing. And you're also supporting them, giving them that praise and that space to be successful. We want to set realistic expectations. We know, especially since COVID, our students' attention spans can be very short. Ours are as well. I think the recent study shows that all adults have attention spans shorter than that of a goldfish. So we want to make sure that we're setting realistic ones for our students. They sit a lot in our classes. And if you were doing that reverse role and you were sitting as much, could you pay attention as often as you're required? And we have to think about that for our students. We want to make sure that they understand the rules and they understand what's expected of them. They need to feel like they're being treated fairly. So if you are constantly, reassessing somebody or talking to a student about their behaviors, do they feel like they're being singled out over other students? Are there other ways that you can approach that behavior? Or maybe they don't understand the rules. So maybe it's coming back to the basics with that student to help them out. And then they need to understand how to succeed. So it's not just the don'ts, but it's the do's. So if you're expecting them to sit quietly on the carpet while you read a book, make sure they understand what is going to be happening. Make sure that every student feels safe and feels like they belong, and they understand how to be successful. We need to encourage a growth mindset in our students as well. We need to have belief in our own abilities and that we can always change and improve. And that starts with you. You're taking this course. You know that there's learning that can be done. Great. You probably have a growth mindset. Well, we need to help our students see that as well. There are tons of lessons and resources that we will review to help build that growth mindset within your class. But really, this comes back to that motivation and that self esteem and that belief that we can continue to learn. And students need to have that modeled in the classroom. So we need to show our students that we're spending time learning and improving our own skills as well. And really, another big part of this is ownership. Students have to take an active role in their learning. If every day they come in and the teacher talks at them, they take notes, and then they leave, they're not really going to have ownership of the learning. The teachers are doing all the work in the classroom. But if you're doing group work or you're having your students have debates or asking questions or adjusting based on the needs of that student, where you're guiding and facilitating their learning, then it puts the onus on them. And that's really what we want. We want the students to feel like it's up to them to learn, and we're going to facilitate and support that process. And this is a big one, and this is the last one, and this is the comparison part. And this is a hard one for teachers because sometimes you want to say, look, everyone else is doing what they're supposed to be doing. How come you're not? But that's really not going to help our students out. We have to remind them of their unique strengths. So, a student that is a behavior problem Offer a leadership role. Maybe they need to be challenged in a different way. Maybe have them stand versus sit and see if that helps with their focus, or talk to them and see what they need. Maybe it's their chair is uncomfortable, or they're just feeling off that day and they need some support. Encourage them to think about their own growth. This goes into that growth mindset again, but we're not comparing them to others. Just say, okay, so today you struggled on your 3 times tables. That's okay. If you work on this, get this done, I know that tomorrow you'll be even better. And then if you don't compare your students to others, it will lessen their stress when you can avoid this. So we want to make sure that we're helping our students feel safe and not getting anxious because they're being compared to others. So you did it. You got to look at the vocabulary that we're going to cover in this course. In the following modules, we'll really take a look at resources and ideas to really hit all of those things that you learned. You also have access to the slide deck, so if you want to go back through, you can take the time to go back through and explore.